laughing. I was making myself laugh last night because I don't know it what made me think of this, but I was like, I thought of a funny gag for the show. What if each time we had a guest before we started I mean, we would start recording, but we would be like, this isn't gonna make the show or whatever. What if we were just like, so before we do the show, we like to, and then just have something totally absurd and get their reaction to it. Like, so before each episode, we actually do flash the camera. Like, so, like, so we actually do swallow something inedible, and that's just our way of like really getting into
Warming up our
anything
voices,
goes.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, but like do it with such a straight face, or like, so we actually do shout out our deepest secret at the moment, and what that does is kind of gets us comfortable with each other.
Before we get going, we just like to gargle some salt water, you know.
Yeah, like we do have this song that we made up, and we sing. It's like a chant.
We do sing our theme song a cappella.
Like, wouldn't that be so funny? And just get
All
the
right, Nick,
reaction
ready?
to
It's
it.
an A. Like,
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, do you have any good ones? Like ideas for like
for
absurd?
gags, just absurd.
No, absurd things that we could tell our guests, and then just have like a compilation. I just said
Is
compilation.
that
A
how you say that
compilation.
word?
It's a
I don't know how to
compilation.
say. I say that word wrong every time I say that.
Yeah, same. I think it's a compilation, but
Compilation.
so we actually do this meditation in which we imagine that our belly buttons are 10
No!
inches long.
Oh my god, no. Please, let that leave my mind once and for all.
Oh my gosh, I'm making myself laugh.
We actually stick a fork in an electrical outlet before every episode to wake up our minds.
That would be so funny.
We
All
do
right,
everything that they tell you not to do as a child. We play with fire, we stick with forks.
yes.
We run with scissors. That's my favorite. You know?
We actually do talk to strangers before. All right, welcome to Point of View, everyone.
I was gonna say, you usually sing the end of the song.
Yeah, well, that one was flat, but Justin, I don't usually ask this on the show, but how are you?
No, this is the first time you've ever asked me how I'm doing, actually.
Yeah,
In our entire friendship. So,
I
I'm
think
glad you're
I
finally
probably-
asking how I'm doing.
yeah.
What's the phrase that I like? It's not everyone asks. Oh, everyone says yeehaw, but nobody asks how ye. You know.
Yes.
I am. Go ahead.
It's always Happy Mario Day and not Waluigi was left off of Mario Kart 7.
Is Mario Day a thing?
Yeah, March 10th.
Oh.
Mar 10. It's like Mar.
Oh.
Let me not
Smarty.
interrupt you. How are you?
I'm good. I feel a sneeze coming on, so I feel like I might sneeze in the middle of my answer. Oh, I need to look into light or something.
We actually do look into the light before each episode.
Yeah. I am doing well. I've had a lot of trouble falling asleep last night, so I waking up. I don't know, unaware of my surroundings. Maybe I don't know. I just feel off. But today is a good day, as is every day. I don't know what I'm saying right now. See, this is what I'm saying. I tried falling asleep at 11:30, and I couldn't fall asleep until about 3. And 3 was just the last time I looked at the clock. You know, you ever have that battle with yourself where you're like, all right, I want to go to sleep and go, and then you're like, I can't do it, and then you guilt yourself for not being able to do it, and you get mad at yourself, and it's a whole thing, and it's just awful. You ever do that?
Yes, I do.
It's just
Good
terrible.
time.
But yeah, I don't know. I
We
I
actually
am
do get
I'm all right.
we actually do get mad at ourselves before each episode.
Yeah.
No.
Mad at ourselves, not
Yeah.
at the other person.
No, exactly. We actually do show up 12 minutes late. Oh wait, that's me.
We actually do remember to charge our laptops before.
I actually do cuss a little.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Do you
Anyway,
I have a question. Do you like being sleep I know Dan's answer to this. Do you like sleeping cold or sleeping warm?
oh, I like wrap myself in blankets like a hot dog,
So like
like a pig in one of them blankets.
so like I know people who like the room to be cold but then they wrap themselves in blankets,
Yes.
but like me for example, I have to be comfy cozy wrapped in a blanket. Like I don't like if the room is cold. I think that's part of the reason why I couldn't fall asleep last night is that the room was cold and I was also cold and
Mm.
I should put another blanket on or I don't know, sweatpants or something. But
You know, we're doing really good on timing this episode. To answer your question, I'm doing pretty well.
it's also 7 a.m.
yes,
because
we
Nick
know how we do.
decided let's wake up at another ungodly hour and see how this episode does.
Yes, we know how we do when we record in the mornings. Um, but I am good. I didn't have a ton of eventful things, which is fine. I am getting my car
I was
in
gonna ask.
5 days. 5 days.
Yay.
I'm getting it on Friday, so I'm very excited about that. I'm very grateful. What I'm grateful for this week, I am grateful for the good days and the bad,
Oh.
and also my health. Um. So yeah, that's my answer. I don't think you said.
Do you
what
want to
were grateful for.
elaborate? No, I did not. But do you want to elaborate at all, or save
Yeah.
that
So
for the
for the trauma
post
episode.
show? Yeah, yeah.
No, well, what I was, yeah, I can definitely elaborate. So I think that for the first time that, like, in, like, OCD recovery, for me at least, I've recognized that, like, bad days are also essential to recovery, which is something that I always saw them as a setback before, so that's been really empowering. Ask me next week and my answer might be very different, but, you know how it is.
Yeah, I like that.
I'll see you around.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
I like that a lot.
thanks. What are you
I think it's
grateful
all
for
about
before?
it's all about the journey too. Sometimes we're so focused on waking up at 7:55 with your alarm going off, and sometimes we're so focused on the destination, trying to get there and trying to be happy and all this stuff. But the bad days are part of life. You're gonna have them. So,
Right. I mean, a wise woman once said, what did she say?
I don't know.
I'm forgetting the lyrics. Now I'm forgetting the lyrics. Oh, there is always gonna be another mountain. I'm always gonna want to make it move.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Always gonna be an uphill battle, and sometimes I'm going to have to snooze. All right. Let's get on with the episode. So this week we are.
Well, maybe
talking
I
about-
should say what I'm grateful for.
Maybe you
before
should
we
say what
move
you're
on.
grateful for. The theme of this episode has been asking the other person how they're doing / what they're grateful for, and then just talking about it.
Just ignoring and not listening to the answer
Yeah, so we actually ignore each other for the first 20 minutes of the episode.
before we start recording.
Yes.
Which is hard when we're actually no, it's not that hard when we're, getting angry at ourselves.
Yes, true. We both like to talk a lot. Justin, what are you grateful for?
What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for a couple things. One of the things I'm grateful for is summer. I love warm weather. I love everything that summer brings. And so I'm just grateful that summer is here. And although this past weekend it felt like it was fall because it was like in the 40s, 50s. Not 40s. It was like 50s, which is not terrible. This is
Yes, it
degrees
did.
Fahrenheit for our international listeners. I'm grateful for that. I'm also grateful for just ongoing friendships. I had a really good conversation about life with someone that you and I both know the other day, and it was just one of those, philosophical conversations about this is where life is, this is how society wants you to be. I feel like it's not. I'm trying to figure out my not meaning, but my place in this world and what I'm doing, and with work and stuff. And she gave me some really good advice about, kind of similar to what you said about the good days and the bad days, and just wanting to try to get to the destination. I guess you didn't say that. I guess I said that. But wanting
No,
to
but
get
it's
to the
true. That's what I
destination.
meant.
Yeah, like wanting to get to the destination and also the journey. And she just gave me advice about, sometimes it's not about getting to the destination. It's about thinking what is the next right step for me. And actually, she was quoting another podcast that she listens to, which I don't want to
Don't
shout
listen to
out
other
because
podcasts.
we don't shout out.
I'm
anybody.
kidding. I'm
We don't
kidding.
shout.
I'm kidding.
We don't give free publicity to anybody. But definitely not Subaru. Definitely not McDonald's. Definitely not shouting out all of our weird things that we did in the comedic meditation. But yeah, I thought that was a really nice perspective of, you don't have to make your decisions about what you're doing next in life based on, okay, I want to get here in the future. I mean, you should at least have that kind of in mind, but sometimes just think about what's the next right thing for you. And so that was really helpful for me in that moment, in that conversation, because I'm trying to figure out what my next right thing is in terms of, well, I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to be too specific, but I'm trying to figure out my next right thing, and I think that was very helpful. So I am grateful for that conversation, very much so. And if you're listening, you know who you are. Who gave me that advice.
I know, and you're welcome.
Yeah.
I did a great job.
Thank you. We also lift
no.
each other up before every episode.
Yes.
We get angry at ourselves, but we lift each other up,
Exactly. Okay. Anyways, I loved that. That was very real. And speaking of real, let's talk about social media.
Yes.
Just the best
our realist
representation
self
of our authentic selves. So if you do hear that in the background, we do interrupt.
Machine?
Oh, it do be. We do have our family interrupt each other or interrupt us before each episode. But I will say, so it's my dad, but he's doing a phenomenal job of being quiet because he's been here mostly this whole time.
Oh,
I did go on mute to ask him to not be talking to the dog before he realized I was recording. But
I talk to Nick's dog before every episode.
Yes, exactly. So, and that's a great point, because with social media, no, I'm kidding. So today we wanted to talk about social media. Basically, it's really just an opinion episode in my opinion. It's not really
great
like
with the speaking parts today,
right? We are, but I'm really kind of loving this episode. So pat ourselves on the back. We want to talk about social media and just like what it means to us, and whether we think it's authentic, whether we enjoy it, what we don't like about it, its effect on us, and how we use it. So I want to open it up to you first and just say you know what? Let's just lay out what we think of when we think social media. So I wrote down, I think I have 6. When I think social media, I think Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, and TikTok.
Okay.
I don't consider YouTube social media. I know it technically is, but I've never thought of, just because I don't like make videos and post them on YouTube, I guess. Maybe that's why I don't think of it as social media.
Sure.
But I just use that to watch videos. So, first of all, what is your favorite social media?
What is
if you were to rank them?
I think Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and I don't have TikTok. I don't have Twitter. I used to have Twitter, but then I deleted Twitter because I was at a professional thing, and someone, like, as an introduction, I may have told this story before. As an introduction, someone went onto my Twitter and found a bunch of pictures of me, and so, like, as the slideshow before they were introducing me, they took pictures from there, and pictures that I forgot I'd posted, and I'm like, I don't use this, I should delete it. So I used to have Twitter. I don't have Twitter anymore. But
that sounds like the most horrific experience I've ever.
No, it was fine. I mean, I posted it, so I guess I was like, it wasn't like terrible. It was just like middle of my awkward stage pictures. You know, that's like, why are we using this in a professional setting?
The middle of my
So,
awkward
so,
stage.
I don't know. It's funny. I don't know if I would consider. I guess it is. I do have a LinkedIn, but so anyway, to go back to the original question, I would say Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook are the ones that I use the most. I guess that would also be how I would rank them. LinkedIn, I have a LinkedIn. I don't really think of that as social media though, because I guess it's more of a professional social media, and I guess you could use
Definitely.
Facebook as a professional social media too. But I use it more as like a networking tool. Like I don't know, our school had Handshake. I don't know if other schools had Handshake or things like that, but I feel like LinkedIn. I don't consider Handshake a social media platform, but
Yeah, I
I
don't consider
guess
Handshake. And I think that was
LinkedIn's
just
the
with our.
same.
Yeah, I don't think everybody knows what Handshake is either. I think that's like
I
specific
do
to.
know some other universities use it though.
Yeah, no, it was good. I'm gonna reference something that one of our friends says, and I'm not gonna say who it is, but they will be on a future episode, so they can, reveal themselves if they want.
Defend
But
themselves.
LinkedIn is where you go to professionally jerk yourself.
Oh my god,
And we
who
can
says
bleep that
that?
off.
I want to know who
We can
says.
bleep that. But my dad's looking at me, strangely. Um,
I
he's in the
too
other
am
room
looking
now.
at you strangely
Yeah, we actually do look at each other strangely before each
before each
episode.
episode.
Um, it's interesting though because you and I had similar rankings. So I did Instagram first, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then TikTok. I don't have TikTok. I don't want TikTok. And it's like I feel like TikTok is for like it's like
Anything
the
that's on
generation below
TikTok
us.
becomes an Instagram reel. It's like the cycle of
Yes.
TikTok. So I don't feel the need to get it when I can just see the trends on Instagram.
Yeah, it's wild. We've talked about this before. I do think it's interesting how influential TikTok is. For example, there is a TikTok. Let me just bring her in real quick. Lady Gaga. There is her song "Government Hooker" is going viral on TikTok, and it has had its most successful streaming days on Spotify ever, multiple times in the past week. And the song is from 2011. It's on Born This Way. So wild.
That's been something I feel like is very unique to TikTok. It's been bringing older music, older TV shows, older like things that have come out years ago are coming back into circulation because of they're becoming TikTok trends.
Yes. Another example, Love Story by Taylor Swift. There were people in the comments. I feel like some of them were probably kidding, but some of them weren't. They were like, "Oh my god, the new Taylor Swift song." And it's like, no, these are just people that were like not born when Love Story came out and are now like 10 and on TikTok.
There's a song called Forget Me Nots, which was like a big thing too. I think it was by I'm trying to look it up right now. By Patrice Rushen. I had never heard that song before. But anyway. Before we continue the conversation, I kind of want to ask Nick, how old were you and what was the first time that you got a social media account or
Ooh.
created a social media account?
Ooh, that's a good question. Oh, actually, this is a really funny story. I think it was what was that page? It was like Facebook but for school and
Google
you had
Classroom?
no, it wasn't Google Classroom, it was something before that. But it was basically Facebook but you could talk to your classmates. You could literally
Hmm,
post pictures, post
I don't know.
I don't even know what it is. Oh my gosh.
I'm thinking Yik Yak, but that was banned at my school.
No, no, it was like the teacher had an account too.
It
Um,
wasn't Google Plus, was it?
no, it wasn't like
It was
attached to like Google.
specific. It was created for school.
Yes. Um. Anyways, I don't know what it was, but I do remember it was in seventh grade, and I thought it was so cool because I wasn't allowed to have Facebook, but I was like, oh yeah, I have this account, whatever. And I like went on one night, and I was like, not allowed to watch Big Brother because it's on till 11. Grr. And I like thought
it's
that this was normal.
it's nice to see that your Instagram has not evolved at all, or your social media has not evolved at all from then. It's like grr.
Okay,
No.
okay, we're gonna talk about that later. But no, but it was just like I felt like I was like tweeting like Tori Vega, Remember the
The
like
slap.
victorious like the slap feeling H like I
Yeah.
don't even know. But that was my first time, and then I defied my parents' rules and made myself a Facebook freshman year of high school, and that was equally as cringy. Um like just the things that I would post are like what are you talking about? Like just like nothing bad, like it was all like very innocent stuff, but it like was just so obscure that like what are you talking about?
Yeah. Was it like subtweets? You know that. So for
No,
those who don't know, the idea of subtweeting is you tweet something super vague, but I guess that is that where if you know kind of came about. I,
maybe, but it wasn't
but
even subtweets.
subtweeting is like if you tweet something super vague, but it's like towards someone or about something, and but you don't mention what that thing is explicitly. I guess for plausible deniability. I don't know, but
Yeah, I no, it wasn't that. It was totally innocent. They were just like two specific references. For example, like something about Lady Gaga that no one was gonna get. That no one. It was just like very 14 years old. Like it would just. I'm sure.
yes.
I'm sure everybody's Facebooks were very what's the right word? Polished and just very you know aesthetically pleasing at that age.
So you said you were in seventh grade and your first account was Facebook, or are you
I
considering
guess
that
yeah. The
vague
first.
social media that was meant for children in school? The your
That's
first
what
one.
it was.
Okay,
Um.
I think I was in sixth grade and I got an Instagram, and yeah, just it's so cringy if you go back to my thing. But yeah, I think I was sixth grade and I had Instagram, and then I remember in seventh grade I got Snapchat, and my parents didn't want me to have a Snapchat because not a lot was known about Snapchat, and there weren't a lot of features yet, and the idea of taking a picture and having it go away after X amount of seconds, my parents thought it might encourage some, we'll say, interesting behavior from people who use the app because the picture's only there for 10 seconds max. And but I got one anyway, and I didn't use it that way, and they were upset with me. But then I don't know.
They
I
were
had it.
upset with you for. Oh, they were upset with you for. I thought you meant they were upset for you for not using it that way.
No,
Like I
they were upset with
genuinely
me
heard it that
for
way.
getting it because it was, like I don't know if Snapchat was invented for what I'm
I
referencing,
don't
but
think it was, but I know people used it that way.
well, yeah, because I feel like that's just the nature of.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember when Snapchat first came out, and just I remember being in high school. I don't think that's when it first came out, but when it first got popular, and people had it on their iPads, taking pictures of teachers, drawing obscene things on teachers. I did not do that, and
It's
to be honest,
evolved
I
so
didn't have
much.
Snap. Yeah, right? Now we draw obscene things on each other, but we can just use the stickers, which were not a thing back then. Um, I want to talk about Instagram because we both mentioned it's our favorite app. Um, but before we do that, I'm
This
just gonna try
podcast
and
is sponsored by. No, just kidding.
yeah, no. Before we do that, I'm gonna try and get Peekaboo out of my head forever.
I think it was Pickaboo. I don't even know if it was
Oh, that's
Peekaboo.
even better. That's even better. By the way, Edmodo was the Facebook for student.
Edmodo.
Yes,
I've never
yes.
heard of that. And you
Well,
got that in middle school?
oh, I
Like
got that
everyone
in
was
middle school.
required to have it in middle school?
It just yeah, in my like yes, and then we used it in high school too. But anyways, I love Instagram. Honestly, we talk about it. I feel like we were just talking about it online, actually, or not online at work. In a meeting where someone said to a group of like, I think high schoolers, "What would you do if you got rid of if you were told you can't use Facebook?" And they're like, or if you had to pay for Facebook, like $1 a month. They were like, "Oh, I wouldn't. I would just give it up." Like they're like, it's not worth it to me. But Instagram, they couldn't live without. Like they would pay.
Hmm.
That was basically those are the bare bones of the conversation that I probably mixed up. Um, I agree with that. Would you be able to get rid of Facebook?
Yes. Because I think I used Facebook for more. I don't use Facebook so much for leisure. I use it for like projects. So
Yeah.
like for the podcasts, promoting podcast. I use it for the Moya Moya awareness community that my family has, like that page. I use it for that. Yeah, I find I use the pages, I use the groups feature more than I use the just feed, like posting, updating my status. What I do like about Facebook versus Instagram is that you can attach an unlimited amount of photos to a status update versus Instagram. You're limited at 10 because sometimes if I'm going on a trip, for instance, for the pilgrimage, that I don't want to just post 10 pictures, I could create an album, which I like. And I feel like there's a whole different demographic that I'm reaching when I use Facebook, but I think I could give up Facebook. I don't know about Instagram, but if you bring in the money aspect, if you say social media wasn't free, I don't know if I would pay for either.
Oh, I would pay for Instagram. I love Instagram.
Would you?
And yeah, and we were talking about it, and I don't know where they got this information or where they came to this conclusion, but it sounds pretty accurate to me, honestly. Instagram is where you go to show people how great your life is. And how, right? And it's like, it's the highlight reel. And that's, I think, one of the reasons that makes it, and a lot of social media, but I would argue that Snapchat is more authentic, you know, especially given the fact that it's only gone for 10 seconds. Sometimes it's too authentic, or only there for 10 seconds. But, you know, Instagram is like where you go to paint the pretty picture. And we've talked about this before. I think that that's, you know, in some ways understandable, because like you're not going to post like, oh, this is me having a depressive episode, you know, like you don't like, that's kind of just like in real life too. We share the highlights, right? You only see other people's highlights, and you know, you see your whole, not only do you see your whole life, but you see your whole blooper reel.
Are you saying this in comparison that on Facebook you is the lowlights, or you're just saying in general Instagram is the highlights, or social media in general is the highlight?
Think there's a generational difference a little bit, where like Facebook is for, you know, there are a lot of people that are, you know, middle-aged, and you know, it runs, like, I don't think many kids, I could be wrong, but I don't think many kids below us in age, like 16, 15, are making Facebooks.
I mean, the only reason I made my Facebook was because when I knew I was going to Loyola, they had the Loyal Class of 2021 group, right, and I wanted to add myself to it, so I literally made a Facebook so that I could be a part of that, and I've had Facebook ever since. But otherwise, there's really no driving force for me to create a Facebook.
Right. But I think Instagram is more like, look at me. Like, Instagram is primarily picture related, or picture based. You have to post a picture,
right,
or
you
some
can't
type
post
of
text.
graphic. Right. It's, yes, exactly.
Just text.
Yes. So, but we've talked about this before, and we can talk about it a tiny bit, and then I want to move into some other conversations about like the effects of social media on us and what our opinions are of it. But I think there is, like, I love Instagram because I do think there's that balance, and I think that you and I both show like an authentic version of ourselves on there. Like, I use Instagram as like an art project almost, and I'm not saying like myself, I'm not calling myself art, that sounds so in love with myself, but just I love doing the themes, you know, and like making pictures relate to each other. And even like with the most recent theme, like the kaleidoscope of, like, I call it dirty colors, and by dirty colors I literally mean colors with like dirt on them, like kind of like like it to me it symbolizes that, like,
at Nick Gervasi 98 to see what he's talking about.
No, it symbolizes that imperfection, and that like recovery is a cycle, and that's why it starts with, you know, the Greek letter. My theme will start with the Greek letter alpha and end with the Greek letter alpha, and it goes through the entire alphabet. So, like, I'll post things that, like, by themselves would look cringy. For example, why does he have a purple filter over this? Like, this isn't 2012. But, like, it makes sense with the theme, right? And, like, I think that is an example of authenticity. It's like, I will post it even if it's not, like, something that is deemed cool to post. And I feel like, I mean, I know you said you don't, like, I know you don't do themes, but, like, I feel like you're pretty much on that same page. Like, I feel like you'll post something, even if it's not considered, like, oh, this is, like, the cool. I was going to say hip, and then I was like, okay, that's how I know I'm not cool, but.
Well, can I ask a clarifying question?
No.
Okay. So, moving on.
No.
Clarifying question. you say that you feel like Instagram, and maybe you were saying also social media as a whole is kind of posting the highlights of your life, but then you said you feel like your Instagram is your authentic self.
Well, it's still the highlight. I think the highlight reel can still be an authentic representation of yourself, right?
Okay.
Like it's not the full picture, but who goes around like you don't do that in real life usually either. Like you don't walk into class or like if you're a student say like this is what's going on. Like you
Sure,
can
sure, sure.
share. Like I feel like there's a way to, or there's a way to, be authentic and still and not be like laying everything out on the table. Um
Sure. I do feel like my Instagram showing and my Facebook showing is my authentic self. Going back
yes.
to like I think I just scrolled back to my Instagram page to the first picture, or not the first picture that I posted, but the earliest photo that's there, and it's from like 2015, and yes, it's like cheesy, cringy,
Of
whatever.
course.
But that's just how it is, and I don't feel like archiving it or deleting it because that's just you can see my evolution as an Instagram user going
Yes.
from it. But going back to the idea about the
And that's
highlights and
hold on, I gotta
lowlights,
hold on before you move forward. I have to do it to you. That's at MTN_DOO.
that is correct. Yes. So yeah, I it's interesting that you say the highlights because I would also argue that social media you post the highlights as well as the lowlights because I find that you have a audience at your disposal with social media, right? In a way that again, I'm only 22, so I don't know if I have that much ground to stand on when I say this, but before social media, you in order to have an audience, you needed to have some sort of platform, be famous for some reason, whatever. But now
Yes.
with the advent of Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, all of your followers can see anything that you post. So you have
Mm-hmm.
a handful, maybe for some people, a few hundreds of people, even if it's just tens of people, something that you can just you type, click a button, and everyone can see it. So I've found in my experience, it's the highlights. I've posted things about graduation. I've posted, special like the anniversary of my surgery for Moi Moi. I posted something. Um, if I start a new relationship for my birthday, like I'll post those type of things. But also, I've found I've posted things that are, I guess you consider low lights, but they're big events that happen. If you consider, say you take like a lifeline, like the highs and then the lows, I would say you post both, right? You rarely post things that are the average Joe moments in your life,
That's a very good point.
but you post the highs, the highs of the highs and the lowest of the lows. For example, in 2017, when I lost my grandmother, I posted something on social media to let everybody
True.
know at once,
True.
because if people found out, I didn't feel like telling people, oh, I'm really sad because, I mean, I would, but I didn't feel like telling people I'm really sad because my grandmother passed away. It was easy to just make I think I did an Instagram post. I don't know if I had Facebook at the time, but
Yeah.
easy to just post on Instagram a kind of tribute post to my grandmother and let everyone know. And then, people can provide solace and comments saying that they think of you and all that. But I feel like that's a good example of posting the lowlights too. Another example is a recent friend of ours. I found out the other day that she's been going through a medical bout,
Yes.
and I found out because
Yes.
she posted on Instagram and Facebook, and I wouldn't have known otherwise.
Yes.
So I feel like that's another good example of, she wasn't looking for pity or anything, but she's just letting people that she cares about know what's going on and wanted to share something like that. So I feel like you can post the highlights, but I feel like you can also post the lowlights,
Yeah, it's a
but
lot
it's
of
the
like the
rarity is the
exciting
middle.
moments. The
Yeah,
exciting moments, be them good or bad. I'm not saying like, oh,
yeah.
somebody died, that's exciting. Like it's just
No,
the like it's the eventful like turmoil like that type of thing too. So it just
right,
like it's all of the it's not the oh I'm sitting on my couch and I'm bored. That's what
right.
Snapchat's for. Um
Well, then I want to say too. I said that you have an audience at the palm of your hand, but also I would say I want to say community because I think community is stronger than an audience, right? Community is built up of people you care about, or people who care about you,
mm-hmm.
and so in moments like that, you can reach out to your quote unquote community and say,
Yes.
hey, this is what's going on. I mean, you chose the example of earlier about, hey, I'm not gonna, you might not post about, oh, I'm, you know, depressed or whatever, but I do know some people who maybe not the worst bouts of their depression post something like that, but I would do know people who post I'm not in the best state right now, and their community would reach out and be like, hey, I'm here if you need
Yes.
to talk.
Yeah.
So that's
And
something I
that
think
is
that's good about social media. It's okay having a giant audience at the palm of your hand is not necessarily a good thing in certain circumstances, but in other circumstances, having a community at the palm of your hand is a great thing.
yeah. No, I agree. That is definitely a benefit of social media. And like I have friends that I've never met in person. Like um I just go on and talk to random complete stranger. No, I don't do that. But so I had like a 40-minute conversation last night with somebody who is going to the Chromatica Ball in Boston, and she and I just like talked
This is
about
Lady
like
Gaga's most recent tour.
yes, which begins on July 17th. Um, which will be relevant to the conversation later. But we just talked about like everything. Like, we were just like, oh, did you like Enigma? What shows did you go to in the past for tours? Like, what date did you go to the Joanne World tour? Like, have you been to Fenway yet? Because that's where she's playing in Boston, Fenway Park, and it's her first stadium tour. Just like all stadium tour. And we just like I had a great conversation with this person who I've never met in real life, but I know
Yeah.
very like not very well, but like I know from social media. Um, but I think that is a cool aspect of social media. But that transitions well. Let me transition because that leads me to what I wanted to say next. Twitter. Now, I know you don't have a Twitter, but I'm sure you know Twitter's reputation for being somewhat toxic. Um
Yeah, yeah.
and
To a certain degree, yeah.
yes, and I think honestly, I think Twitter can be a great place um for those who don't always have a voice to express themselves, express what they're thinking. But I think it also gives a microphone to people that like to hear themselves talk. I think Twitter can be a very like I've talked about like the gray area multiple times. I think it's a very black and white binary space. Like people will just tweet something and if you don't believe this, you're basically shit. Like and people don't think like that in real life. Like I see a lot of political
Hmm.
posts on Twitter that are just like people like to use their imaginary PhDs on there where they're just like an expert in whatever. Um and it can also be like a breeding ground for misinformation, like politically, socially, even entertainment wise. And I'm not talking about misinformation here, but like Stan Twitter, I don't know if you know what that is, but it's very toxic. It's just like fandoms. Like I'll literally see like a post or like a comment on a tweet that'll be like, I wrote this one down. It'll be like, folklore outsold Chromatica. Fadga is over and wishes she was still relevant, or vice versa. Like at least Lady Gaga can sing. Folklore relies on 15-year-olds to maintain her success. And it's like, sir, the question was, what was your favorite Dua Lipa song? Like it's just like a lot of people fighting on Twitter. That's what I see. And like I know I've had this conversation with a lot of friends before that it can just be very negative. So what are your thoughts on Twitter? Because I personally love it. I'm kidding.
I think Twitter promotes, what is a tweet? A tweet is a quick sentence or two, maybe a little bit longer, because it used to be, it might have doubled at this point, but it used to be you could only create a tweet that was 140 characters.
Yes.
Now I think it's double that.
It's 280
And
now.
yes, so yeah, it's double that. And I think it encourages tweeting people's unfiltered consciousness, right? Because it's just a quick little whoop, and then it's up. And I don't know. I understand. I like what you said about it's very binary, right? It's or I guess a better word for it was polarizing. You get the extreme
Yes.
of one point of view, you get the extreme of the other point of view, but you don't get a lot of. And even if people are tweeting kind of middle ground, like we said, the highlights, the lowlights. If you're not getting a lot of middle ground, at least if they are, they're not getting a lot of attention. So I think it makes a lot of sense that it's like that. I also just think, in a way, and this is my opinion, but that I'm open to hearing other opinions. I feel like social media is a reflection on how the world currently is, right? And if the world is currently polarized, it could be that could come out in other people's social media, or it could be the other way, right? Social media could be polarizing, and therefore its effects on society is it polarizes society. I don't know. What do you
Yeah.
think about that?
Ooh, I like that last point a lot. I think yes, it's a reflection of the state of the world, but also it gives people a screen to hide behind, and people aren't that
That's
bold in real
another thing
life.
too.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, and I think that Twitter is mainly a conversation platform. Like, you don't really post pictures. You can, but you don't as much. Whereas like Facebook's the middle ground. And I think that's why Facebook gets a lot of people start arguing in the comments on Facebook, but you rarely see Instagram. People are very
Fights.
like fights. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like it gives that they all give that false sense of confidence, but for different reasons.
Sure.
Twitter is very polarizing because you can say whatever you want with no backing whatsoever, of it being factual. It can be totally opinion based, but you state it as a fact and you just start screaming at somebody because they think differently or something. Like, I don't know, Twitter's just like very, very negative in my opinion.
Something that was in the headlines a few weeks ago, I think. Maybe I don't think it was a month ago yet. Maybe a few weeks ago, where Elon Musk decided that he wanted to buy Twitter, and he did. And that's the black and white answer. I'm sure it's very gray and all that stuff. But as someone who claims to be a self proponent of freedom of speech, that was the reason why he bought Twitter, right? Because he was not happy or not satisfied with the moderating that Twitter was doing, and that he felt that certain people were being silenced and things were being filtered. And he, as someone who is a quote proponent of freedom of speech, he wanted that platform, or at least to create a platform where freedom of speech could be defended. Now, I guess my first question for you is, what do you think about him purchasing Twitter? And then I guess the second thing is, you and I have talked a little bit about, or actually while we weren't recording, we talked about how there's Truth Social, Donald Trump's social media platform, also is the same, claims to do the same thing, where it's freedom of speech, anyone can go on there, right? And so you talked about how Twitter can also be toxic, right? Because there's stan culture and there's just people going at each other. So I guess my second question to you is, do you think that freedom of speech, yes, should be defended, but to a point? Or do you think that there's like a line where freedom of speech goes too far with on social media, that maybe like social media platforms have the responsibility to kind of, I guess, moderate in certain ways?
Okay, so my answer to the question about Elon Musk, I don't believe his reason for buying Twitter is truthful. He might think like he might believe it, and I guess in that way it's truthful, but I really just think he's a billionaire with money that wanted to buy. It's like a game for him. It's like a hobby. It's like, I'm gonna buy Twitter and own Twitter. I did just read somewhere that, and it was probably on Twitter, that he fired employees for who spoke out against him or like disagreed with something that he was doing. Um, and that was being questioned. It's like, well, you said you believe in freedom of speech, so is it only when it benefits you? Or but again, I don't know the full story on that. It was on Twitter. Like I said, everything you can say whatever you want on Twitter, and you don't need to back it up. And I'm not gonna go and search the validity of every single tweet that I see. Just because who's gonna do that? So, I don't think that is why he bought Twitter, and is in the process of it. To be honest, I think that like a lot of the things he does, in my opinion, are questionable, and I really think I don't know. A lot of the billionaires that we know of, or the prominent figure billionaires, they remind me of like adult children. Like, they literally just like that's what they do. Like, look at
Because
Trump
of the amount of wealth that they have, they just live in a world that doesn't have as many consequences as the rest of us.
Yeah. Like, I believe that Donald
Or at least
Trump
not live in a world that have to have consequences, but like,
right.
you can skirt around things because you have money.
Right. I don't believe Donald Trump ran for president to serve the American people. I think he ran for president to call himself president
Hmm.
because he had, the time. He had the time to do it. He had the money to do it. And that's why I think he ran for president. And I think it's similar, um, for a similar reason that Elon Musk wants to, or is in the process of buying Twitter. But to answer your second question, the censoring of information, and then the argument for freedom of speech, I think that when you own a company, you can choose what gets blue and what doesn't. Especially in the age of misinformation, when anybody can go on and say whatever they want and just say that it's true, that's dangerous. Especially when it promotes hate against just certain minority group. So I don't think that, for example, or when it, for example, this is another example, like Donald Trump banned for Twitter. I think that was totally valid because he was spreading misinformation about the election and undermining American democracy. So I think that was totally valid. Also, it's Twitter, like you basically sign like the waiver, right? When you sign up for Twitter, like I agree to the terms and conditions of this. Like it's not, you can say whatever you want, but there are still consequences.
To play devil's advocate a little bit, do you think though, if a company does something like that, does censor certain things, do you think that's infringing on the American right for freedom of speech?
No, because you can go out and say it on a soapbox if you want. Honest to God, like it's their platform. They can choose what's published and what's not published. Like, and if you, I don't know, I just
That's a fair point.
like
Yeah,
and
like
yeah,
I think that's a fair point. And going back to like this is honestly we could probably have a whole episode on the responsibilities of social media platforms and what they shouldn't. And there've been congressional hearings on this whole thing too, but it's what are the responsibilities of Meta, of Twitter, of TikTok, of Snapchat to do they have a responsibility in dissuading people from posting misinformation, or is that just not their job? Is their job just to provide a platform and then they just hands off all the way?
right.
I think that's a really interesting conversation that could be had too.
Yeah, and another example that's politicized but not necessarily political is, with COVID. Instagram, when you share something that has to do with COVID, it has an algorithm that says this post mentions COVID-19.
Yeah, that's a great example.
It gives like a disclaimer about misinformation and spreading misinformation.
Just it says like, yeah, so maybe that's what the platform's responsibility is to add those types of algorithms in, maybe not completely censor information, but just to encourage people to do their own research and not just take something at face value.
Well, Twitter was doing that before they removed Donald Trump from the platform. It had the little, this tweet has been flagged for misinformation.
Interesting.
I don't know if those are the exact words, but yeah, I think if it's their company, then yeah. I mean, if they were doing it unethically, well, I guess, some people would argue that censorship is unethical in and of itself, but if they were just like silencing people for like expressing their opinion, I think that's a little different.
Sure.
But when you're like objectively lying about an election or a disease, or a
So you're saying like, and this is like really strong language, but basically spreading misinformation about, say, the pandemic or about an election which has facts that you can just back up,
right,
versus just someone being a bigot.
I mean,
there's like differences there is kind of like what we're
yeah,
saying
here. I guess honestly, like I could even see bigotry being silenced on social media. Like I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's
I'm just challenging
platform.
it because you say
no, I totally get it. I totally
their
get
opinion. If it's their opinion, you have the right to your opinion.
Yes.
I think it segues well into what we want to talk about next, which is social media. Is social media as a whole just have a little bit of debate. Is it net good or is it net bad? And I feel like we're talking about, okay, these are some of like the seedier people on social media platforms who just go on, hide behind a screen, as you said earlier, and you know, I'm sure, I hope they don't just always promote hate, but are
No,
spread
there are
things
great
with hate.
people
But
on social media.
right, so what are your thoughts on that? Like, or maybe I can share my thoughts on, is social media net good or net bad? But
Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts first, just because you brought up the question. So
sure.
I feel like you have some talking points.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I necessarily have talking points, although I am someone who likes to process things externally. So I'm just gonna literally, this is just gonna be a brain dump of what my thoughts are. At in my first glance at this question, being the optimist that I am, I like to say that social media is a net good. Because like I said earlier, I feel like it provides people with an audience. It reminds people that you're not alone. Um, and I really do think that things that I've used social media for, like I've fundraised using Facebook. Like that's not something that I don't know if I'd be able to connect with as many people if I didn't have social media. Like sure, I'd be able to tap into my friend networks and stuff, but you know, you are able to reach more people when you can just click friend, 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 and then for that reason. Um, I mean, I do see the downsides of social media. I think that it's much easier to compare yourself, and I am so guilty of doing this, as we kind of talked about in the episode with Angela, of just being uh perfectionist. Is I am comparing myself a lot, not necessarily like the type of life that I'm living compared to other people, but just like I am guilty of comparing, oh, this person posted something similar and got more likes than me.
Yeah.
Like even that I think is something that can be bad, and then it can be bad for mental health too, because if you're comparing yourself, you can get sad, you can get anxious, you can get, you know, all these types of things. But
Well,
I don't know.
that's a good point, and I have a um something I want to say to that. But it sounded like you were going to say
Yeah,
something
well,
else.
just my last thing is, and like I'm sure there's different types of ways that not I'm sure, I know for a fact that there are different types of ways that you can get your news, but I get a lot of my news from Instagram because I follow NPR, I follow Axios, I follow, you know, things like that. So I think it's an easy way to get the news versus having to tune in and watch the 6 o'clock news or whatever is the news channel, or is the time that the news is on. You know, we have 24-hour news cycles now, and I'm sure we could talk about that on a different episode. But I get, it's easy to get things at a glance on social
Mm,
media, but I do see the bad too. So I'm gonna say, I want to say net good.
yeah.
Although there is a part of me that's like, do you really feel that way? But
Yeah.
we can
I
get into
no.
that.
I feel that way too. I feel like it's a net good with a lot of bad sides too. Like I do feel like it's like a 60-40,
Yeah,
honestly, or like a
it's
7.
definitely not a heavier like, oh yep, that's
Right,
the
right, right,
answer.
right. So my first thing to respond to your the comparisons and the um like, oh, likes, like I do really something that I've done recently, the Instagram added around the time that we started this show, actually, the option to hide the like count. uh
Yes, I've actually
and
been doing
that's
that more.
Yeah, I love doing that, to be honest, because it allows me in my head to just post whatever I want and not judge the post based on how many likes it got. Because if I really
Mm.
like a post, before this option was available, when I really liked a post and it didn't do well, it's like, oh, this is a bad post in my mind. Just like even subconsciously, it's like, oh, it was a bad post. Now, especially with like my themes I literally just posted one today that's probably not doing nearly as well as my college posts, and that's totally fine because it's more obscure. Like in it, I'm holding a broken, like, it's like a cylinder type thing in my hand, and that's kind of like shows like breaking a cycle. And I talked about like the themes of the Odyssey in my theme in my current theme, or the allusions to the Odyssey in my current theme. But that was something that like wouldn't typically get a lot of likes, and there's like a green tinge to it, but I can't, and it's more for me. Here I post what I want, it fits with my theme, and that's something that has definitely helped. And I encourage other people to do that too on Instagram if that's something they deal with. Which just seems like that's a very strong, like, that was a, I remember that being a thing that it was a debate for a while. Like, should Instagram hide likes? Should they not? Are they going to get rid of the like count entirely? I think America was like one of the last countries they rolled that out in. But I like that it's an option.
Yeah.
In
That's
response,
interesting too, because like, sorry to interrupt,
No, go.
but something that I was gonna say earlier on in the episode too is that I find that social media it's an art. It's an art and it's a science. And for me, it's something that I just do so nonchalantly. Like if I'm gonna post something, I just want to post it because I want to post it. But like I also know people in my life who only post at a specific time because that's when it'll get the most likes, and
I used to do that.
but this is interesting too because like you use social media at your job, and
Yes.
that requires you to get the most amount of attention on your posts. But me as an
Yes.
individual, when I post, I'm not playing the game of the art. I'm not playing the science. I just want to post something because it's like, look I had a great time at this, or like I want to post my highlight. Hopefully not as much my low lights, but if I'm gonna post a low light, I want to post it just because I want to post it, and not think about, oh, did I post it at the wrong time? Do I not? Could I have gotten more likes if I did this? Is my caption bad? So people aren't gonna like it, So
Right. Yeah. Well, no, I'm looking at the post that I just did today that you liked.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you very much. There's like, for example, it looks like the screen is cracked on it. I added that, and if you look really closely, which no one did, this is for me. You can see a heart, like a human heart, coincidentally under the Point of View logo, with an anchor too. It's very, very subtle, but it's like I'm making this like little collage for myself, and I don't care. That's not a post that's gonna do well, just because it's not, it doesn't fit the mold of like what's cool. But it's for me now, and I enjoy it. And like you said, social media can be like an art, just like it's like a fun thing. Um, in terms of the bad side of it, aside from mental health, because you've kind of talked about what social media can do to mental health, I was thinking more along the lines, and I agree with you 100%. I was thinking more along the lines of like, again, misinformation, and I see it in good, in like well-intended people too. An example I'll give is like I follow a lot of OCD advocate accounts, and sometimes I'll see things that are just like not correct, and it's not that they are intentionally trying to misinform you. It's just like, okay, that's kind of like an oversimplification or an overstatement, or where are you, like, what are your credentials? And then you'll see it's like, oh, it's a person with OCD, and it's kind of like, obviously their experience is valid, but like, it's like, is that necessary? Like, for example, there are some people on there, and this is intentionally misleading, that will say, "Oh, this is how you recover. You have to do these things and these things and these things." And I'm a coach. They're called OCD coaches, and they're not therapists. And they develop their own like recovery method. And it's like, "Oh, you can totally recover," and blah 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 blah. You have to follow these steps. And I have this course, and they're trying to get you to like, and they do. I think they have like they're well intended to an extent, but they're also trying to make money off of people that have a disorder. And that's just like one example, but I even see it with like different mental illnesses, because like I see like things suggested for you, like because I'm into mental health, and I'll see things and I'll be like, is that actually true? Because anybody, like I said, anybody can have a PhD on there.
Right.
So
also too, like the ability to catfish
yeah, I didn't even think about that.
social media brings. Like there's a whole TV show on MTV because of what social media brought to the world. And like I'm sure that with phone numbers, like when phones first came out, I'm sure people were doing it, but like it's so much easier to just get pics. I just say pics, get pictures from Google and make a fake account, and to like that there's harm with that.
You can see that on,
and is that this
yeah, you can see that on dating apps too. I have seen Instagram influencers that I'm like, that is not actually you, because I know who you are. I know who you are. Not only is that not you, but that's not your age. That's not your sexuality. Like, so.
Yeah.
So. And then I report
it. Something else you want to add? Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It was brought to my attention. There's a new social media platform out there. I don't know if you've heard of this. I actually downloaded it yesterday. Because I loved the idea, I loved the concept, and it's called Be Real.
I love being real.
Are you familiar with this?
No, 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 no.
Okay, so the whole concept about Be Real, and very few people, because I had it sync with my contacts and see who else was on it, blah blah blah, and the whole concept of Be Real is that every day you get a notification, and it says you have 2 minutes to post your Be Real, and within those 2 minutes, you don't have to do it within 2 minutes, but it's encouraged that you do it in 2 minutes because you and all of your friends on Be Real get the notification at the same time. And you take a picture, and it takes a picture from both your back camera and your front camera.
Oh, that sounds scary.
And you just post whatever you're doing at that time, and then you just send it up. And so then so today the notification came, and it comes at a different time every day. So the notification today came around 2:00. So I just took a picture. I was sitting right where I'm sitting right now. I just took a picture of my reflection in my laptop, and I made a funny face, and I just sent it. And what I like about it is that, sure, some people will like stage it or whatever, and
Oh yeah.
however they want. And you can see how many times someone might have retaken it. Versus or like if it's just like the first one, like authentic, like boom, that's what they're doing right now, front back. Like a lot of people are like one of my friends had a bowl of granola, and so the back camera picture was just a bowl of granola, and the front picture was just like their eyes and forehead. And that's what you get, and then each day you get that notification, and it's like boom, that's what this is.
That
what you're
could
doing
be
for
so
real.
dangerous in theory.
Well, you still accept what's like what you
Right, what's
post and
posted,
stuff.
yeah.
But I like the idea because it's not like you're doing all this planning, right? Because I feel like I don't like doing planning. Like if I like a picture, I just want to post it, but I find myself doing the planning before I post something because I feel like that's what's expected of me. But what I like about this is
shouldn't be.
I'm literally just going to the whole concept is you post one thing every day. It could be like I've had bedhead. I mean, yesterday I was at the Red Sox because it was Father's Day, and I was at the Red Sox with my family. Today I was working, so I was just in my room with my computer, and this is day 2. Who knows what day 3 will be like? I'll just be in the middle of something. I'll just be like, oh, I guarantee you, I'm gonna have bedhead and look like a sack of potatoes. But like, who cares?
I
love
sack
it.
of potatoes.
I love it. I just love the idea.
Love that idea too, and part of me is like, oh well, my Instagram is pretty like it's the highlights still. Of course, it's the highlights, but it's also
polished.
It's 100%. And I honestly, I want to do this too. I'm definitely gonna make
Get this app because I need more friends. No, I don't need more friends.
So much for Be Real.
Well, no, but like not a lot of people have it, right? So
right.
I have like a couple of friends who have it, and it's cool to just be like, whoop. And if you do the post after the 2 minutes, it you don't get penalized or anything. It just says like, oh, they're, example, 8 hours late. But, yeah.
I'm curious to do. Yeah, I definitely want to do it. I guarantee you, 9 out of 10 of my first pictures are going to be me on the toilet. Like that is what I think is dangerous about this.
Well,
it
again,
will be head up, obviously.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, oh, there's.
You don't have to. You don't know when the notification's coming because it comes at a different time every day, and if you just happen to be on the toilet for the first 3 days, I guess you're just on the toilet a lot. But
yeah, I'm also nervous too because when you Google someone, sometimes their Instagram posts will come up. So I'm afraid that one day someone's gonna Google me and it's just gonna be a bunch of pictures of me on the toilet. Like that's again, what potential employers are gonna see.
Choose what you post, so you like
right.
if you get the notification and you just so happen to be on the toilet, you just wait until you're not on and then you do it. So I don't know. I wanted to end the episode with that because it's refreshing to me because I feel like social media has had a similar take. I mean, Snapchat is a little bit different. I feel like it's more of it's a communications device. Like I don't know. Not like I'm not posting something for a general public to see. I'm sending individual, unless it's a story, sending individual photos to my friends.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I find this refreshing because I don't have to plan. I'm literally just I plan to at least just post whatever the heck I'm doing when I get the notification. And there's also there's not necessarily likes, there's reactions, which I guess like Facebook has, but instead of it being like a thumb, you have to take a picture of yourself mimicking that emoji. So like if you wanted to do a thumb for a like, you have to like give a thumb, and
That's
then
funny.
like, it like posts you going like this, so you see the person's face. Or like if you want to do like a heart eye, send a heart eye emoji, you have to, your face has to somehow mimic the heart eye emoji, and then you send that as the like. Yeah.
How do you mimic that?
Just,
Your
just,
eyes
like,
wide open.
really wide open, just like hello,
That's
Hello.
terrifying.
hello Clarice, you know.
God, this picture of me is so good.
But anyway, I don't know. I like Be Real. Maybe this can be our little experiment. If you get it too, we can.
Yeah, no, I
check
would love
back
to.
in.
I would love to. Also, I wanted to talk. This is another experiment I'm doing. It's not really an experiment, but it can be. On August 19th of 2022, the recording artist, known professionally as Lady Gaga, will be landing her ship at Fenway Park and bringing us the world of Chromatica. And on July 17th, that tour will begin, and I will be going off of social media entirely because I don't want to see spoilers of this show. And I am curious.
Do Be Real then.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking, because she's definitely not on there. She would. I feel like that's something she would love, but also hate, because like she doesn't like social media. She says it's the toilet bowl of the world, but also it has its perks, which is like kind of where we stand too, to be honest.
Although we said net good.
I think she believes that too at the end of the day, because she's on it.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, I'm curious to report back on what my I've done this before, avoiding spoilers, but I am like totally because not only is my For You page covered with her, but Point of View's For You page is covered with her.
Do you follow a bunch of accounts on Point of View?
No, not on Point of View, but it still knows, because like just so half the time I'll search things on Point of View by accident, or message people from Point of View by accident. And then be like, oh, sorry, this is Nick. I didn't realize I was on the podcast account. But I will report back on what that's like.
But let's download Be Real. Let's both get
Be Real. I will.
We'll, let's do this. It'll be fun.
I will.
But anyway, my name is Justin Dew.
And I'm Nick Gervasi.
And you can reach us at our email, pointofviewpodcast@gmail.com, or by sending us a voice message on our website, anchor.fm/pointofview. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Point of View Podcast, and Twitter at Point of View. That sounds so ingenuine after the conversation.
I was going to say, and follow us on Be Real at
follow
Do
us
of
Be
Point.
Real. Yeah.
At Do of Point.
If you enjoy our show, give us a rating. This feels ingenuine too. Give us a rating if you want. We're not going to promote it so hard this time because it's like different.
Yeah, we are. Give us a rating in the Apple Podcast Store, or share us with a friend or family member. We'd really appreciate it. I would really appreciate it, and are truly grateful for your support.
As always, we hope you have a great week. Thank you for listening. Nick, thank you for a wonderful conversation, as always. And until
that was
next
great.
time.
Maybe H.
Just maybe a little bit.
Because we count the times when we were together. Now we're back again, but this time the colors will not be the same. He's all that we've read, say that we cause we failed. Once we got scared to feel, got blown away, ended with drought. So we are recoloring to rewrite ourselves. We'll make all good out of it, because we count the times when we were together. Now we're back again, but this time the colors will not be the same.